After fixing, put the crane and lift up vertically with care not to damage the screw of cylinder head bolt. After drawing the cylinder head, clean the carbon in the cylinder liner or at the top of the piston by the descaling agent. After cleaning, cover the cylinder so as not to allow dust and foreign matters to enter it. Remove the suction and exhaust valve supporter from the detached cylinder head. To remove the suction and exhaust valves, remove the valve rotators, cotters, and valve springs. Prepare the exclusive tools for removing. Firstly, fix the lifting tool of cylinder head to the tightening bolts of fuel valve by the drawing out tool B. Turn the handle clockwise after attaching the exclusive tool. Remove the cotter while holding valve rotator and valve spring. Turn the handle counterclockwise and release the compression of valve spring. After detaching the exclusive tool, remove the valve rotator and valve spring. Lay the cylinder head and draw out the suction and exhaust valve. Draw out the steam seal fitted in the valve rocker arm. At the same time, eliminate the carbon on the combustion surface. Check the combustion surface and the suction and exhaust valve by penetrate test for cracks. Check for sulfuric acid corrosion and bend of the suction exhaust valve stem and high temperature corrosion of the valve poppet, and also rub the valve and its seat. Improper rotation of the valve rotator will cause carbon to get caught in the valve seat and blow by at the seat, and it also affects the service life of the valve and valve seat. Therefore, periodically overhaul and check the valve rotator. Here's how to do it. It's possible to disassemble the rotator into the body, ball plate, Belleville spring, and spring shoe by removing the circlip. Wash the disassembled parts with washing oil. Check if there are no abrasions or corrosion in each part after cleaning. If there are any damaged parts, replace them. At this time, mark on the rotator so that it is easy to check the revolution work during a run. Check the valve seat, and if it's over usage limit, renew it. Build up the whole circumference of the valve seat face by arc welding to remove the valve seat. If it is difficult to remove it, further weld an iron plate and hammer out the valve seat through a round rod driven into the valve guide. Insert O-ring into a new valve seat and cool it with inserted O-ring by a cool conductor. Just before inserting the valve seat, apply the anti-seize and the silicone-based liquid packing into its hole of cylinder head. Insert the valve seat. In doing so, use the valve to fit it quickly. After having replaced the exhaust valve seat, be sure to conduct the hydraulic test and check that no water leaks from the mated part. After a complete check, reassemble the cylinder head with any necessary replacements. Incorporate a new stem seal by the tool. At this time, be careful not to damage the lip of stem seal. Apply lubricating oil on suction and exhaust valve and then insert it into the cylinder head. Check the marking of cylinder head to avoid mistakes. Reassemble the valve rocker arm spring, valve rotator, and cotter in inverse order for disassembly. After reassembly, check that the rotator turns smoothly. Install the connecting pipe of cooling water into the cylinder block before returning the cylinder head to the engine. At this time, make sure to renew O-ring, and also replace the head packing and boost air packing to a new one. Regarding the connecting pipe of cooling water, confirm the distinguishing mark to avoid the positioning mistake. Fix the lifting tool of cylinder head to the tightening bolt of fuel valve and lift it. Check there are no foreign matters in the cylinder and return the cylinder head to the engine. Fasten the tightening nut of the cylinder head by the hydraulic jack. The procedure of hydraulic jack is in the same way when assembled the tightening nut of head. Return the fuel injection valve by the exclusive tool. Furthermore, assemble each pipe and restore the cylinder head to its original condition. After assembling the cylinder head, adjust the clearance of suction and exhaust valve in the following procedure. Firstly, turn the flywheel to set the piston of the cylinder for which the clearance is to be adjusted at the TDC of the compression stroke. At this time, if the push rod moves slightly, judge it as being in the compression process. Loosen the lock nut and then loosen the adjusting screw of rocker arm and valve guard. Tighten the adjusting screw of valve guard little by little while holding its upper part and then adjust the clearance to be on 0 point. After adjusting, fix the adjusting screw and tighten the lock nut completely. Secondly, insert the feeler gauge into the clearance between the adjusting screw of rocker arm and valve guard. Tighten the adjusting screw of rocker arm little by little. Fix the adjusting screw in a point from where the feeler gauge can be easily drawn out and tighten the lock nut. After tightening the lock nut, insert the feeler gauge again to check it can be easily drawn out. I will explain the procedure for disassembly and maintenance of piston and connecting rod. Prepare the exclusive tools for disassembly of the piston. It starts from removing the piston. Leave the cylinder head open beforehand. Remove the protection ring before pulling out the piston. Turn the flywheel and set the piston at a position of about 80 to 90 degrees before TDC. Attach the liner supporting tool and spacer. Fix them with the tightening nuts of cylinder head. Place on the top of the piston the protection ring drawing out tool with the large diameter of taper part up. Remove the protection ring while turning the flywheel slowly. Remove the disassembling tools and the detached protection ring. Eliminate the carbon from the upper part of cylinder liner. Make a good condition in order to pull out the piston smoothly. Now, we proceed to the work for pulling out the piston. After putting the tap on the top of piston, screw the lifting eye bolt into the piston and stretch a wire. Loosen the bolts of connecting rod with the specified disassembling tool and remove the bolts and metal cap. Lift the piston by 20 to 30 millimeters. Remove the upper metal. Then lift the piston. Clean the cylinder liner after lifting the piston. Also, measure the inside diameter of cylinder liner according to the instruction manual. Measure the inside diameter of cylinder liner with the specified measuring tool. Use the measuring tool of inside diameter position to measure the specified measuring position in the two directions respectively. Remove the piston pin from the removed piston for check and maintenance. Firstly, remove the piston pin circlips by pliers. Detach the piston pin while supporting the connecting rod. Secondly, remove the piston ring. Turn over the piston and detach the cover of piston cooling chamber. Check and maintain the removed parts. Firstly, eliminate the carbon deposited on the outside of piston and the scale in cooling chamber. Secondly, check the piston by penetrate test for cracks on its top surface and ring groove. If any of them are found with abnormal state, change the parts. Measure the dimension of each piston part and of the piston pin according to the instruction manual. If any of them are used beyond the usage limit, change the parts. Check the connecting rod. Check first the contact and looseness in fit of piston pin metals. And also check the condition of crank pin metal. Check the contact on the rear and mating surface of each metal, and also check for seizure and embedded foreign matters on the sliding surface of each metal. Check for cracks, wear, and scratch on the serration mating surface of big end and bolts of connecting rod. To prevent the bolts from being broken due to fatigue, replace them about every 20,000 hours, even if their appearance is normal. Measure each part of the connecting rod according to the instruction manual. If any of them are used beyond the usage limit, change the parts. I will explain the procedure for angle tightening and stamping the set mark for the connecting rod bolt. The connecting rod bolts of this engine are tightened by angle tightening method. The mark indicating the specified angle, 120 degrees, and the set mark are stamped on the connecting rod and the connecting rod bolt respectively. When disassembling a connecting rod, make sure to re-stamp the set mark. Apply the lube oil and Protect grease to the connecting rod bolts. Install the metal cap while the crank pin metals are not fitted, and screw the bolt to its seating by hand. By using the torque wrench, tighten the bolt by the torque shown on the video. Stamp a temporary set mark on the side of the bolt collar, aligning with the set mark at the point A on the connecting rod. At this time, delete the old mark. Tighten until the set mark on the side of the bolt and B mark of the connecting rod are aligned. Stamp the set mark on the side of the bolt collar, aligning with the set mark at the point B on the connecting rod. After finishing the check and maintenance, exchange the necessary parts and assemble the piston and the connecting rod. Put the cover on the piston cooling chamber. At this time, fit its hole on the top of piston at the marking side, pump side. Renew the bolt and Belleville spring and then tighten them. Assemble the piston ring. Incorporate the oil ring with its coil joint shifted 180 degrees from its cut. Be careful not to mistake a setting order of second ring and top ring. Incorporate the piston rings with their marked sides facing upwards and their cuts shifted 120 degrees from those of adjacent rings. Incorporate the piston and the connecting rod while aligning their set marks to each other and inserting the piston pin. At this time, incorporate the piston pin circlip with its opening facing straight down. Set the crank pin metals on the connecting rod and metal cap. At this time, don't apply the lube oil on the rear of the crank pin metals. Screw the lifting eye bolt into the piston and lift it. Install the piston and the connecting rod into the engine. As the preparation, apply lube oil on the piston, cylinder liner, and crankshaft after installing the piston guide. Install the piston. At this time, align the set mark on the top of the piston with the fuel injection pump side. Insert the piston while tapping the piston with a resin hammer. Apply lube oil to the screw of connecting rod bolt and protect grease to the seating. Agree the set mark of metal cap with the set mark of connecting rod body. Fit the metal cap and then tighten the bolts. The connecting rod bolts are tightened by angle tightening method. Tighten the upper and lower bolts alternately in 3 steps to the punch mark confirmed in advance. After tightening, check the side motion of connecting rod. If it doesn't move, reassemble it. Finally, assemble the protection ring by hand. I'll explain the overhaul procedure for main bearing metal and thrust metal. Prepare the hydraulic tool before overhauling the main bearing metal. Prepare the exclusive tool as you are watching in the video. Let's start the overhaul. Firstly, turn the flywheel and set the piston next to the main bearing at a position of 120 degrees before TDC. Install the spacer and hydraulic jack on the nut of main bearing bolt, and then attach the hydraulic tool in the same way of tightening nut of cylinder head. Secondly, detach the side bolt of main bearing that will be disassembled and then loosen the next bolts on both sides. Applying hydraulic pressure to the hydraulic jack and loosen the tightening nut of main bearing bolt. Close the relief valve of hydraulic pump and raise the hydraulic pressure to specified value. Insert the exclusive turning bar into the spacer notch, keeping specified hydraulic pressure, and then loosen the nut. After all two of tightening nuts are loosened, remove the hydraulic tool in the same procedure as tightening nut of cylinder head. After removing the hydraulic jack, loosen the cap nut of main bearing 2 or 3 turns and set the drawing out tool to the main bearing bolt and fix it by the bolt. Fit the drawing out bolt on the main bearing cap. Turn and draw out the nut. Remove the tightening nut of main bearing cap and install the holding tool to the bolt. Screw the circular nut into the holding bolt and fix it to the main bearing bolt to hold the main bearing cap. Firstly, after fixing, detach the lower metal of main bearing. Remove the upper metal by the detaching attaching pin. Set the detaching attaching pin in the oil hole of crankshaft from non-operating side. The upper metal is pushed and drawn out by turning the flywheel to the rotational direction slowly.